what is DMAC? It is just kids.
It's just kids.
I know, exactly. Isn't that amazing?
The concept of human action proposed by a narrative approach is that action is an expression of existence, and that its organization manifests the narrative organization of human experience. The narrative plot configures the events into a whole, and the events are transformed from merely serial independent happenings into meaningful happenings that contribute to the whole theme. Donald Polkinghorne, Narrative Knowledge in the Human Sciences. Plot, as we have defined it, is the organizing line and intention of narrative, thus perhaps best conceived as a structuring operation. We can then conceive of the reading of plot as a form of desire that carries us forward, onward through the text. Peter Brooks, Reading for the Plot.
Hello, here I am. This is my thesis statement, right? I mean, we want to go in that direction, right? Okay.
DMAC projects are built on the premise that they will successfully conclude. This sense of an ending gives learning structure and purpose. While learning itself does not end, the time at DMAC does lead towards an ending in the fulfillment of the project.
So the idea that we're trying to do during this session is getting you to think about what it is that you want to accomplish in the rest of the time you're here. You have approximately 1 week, 5 really good tough days of time when you can work. And I want you to think about what you want to end up with. And I want you to think about with whom you want to make a difference.
The story of DMAC thus enables the story of learning, a plot in which the learner as agent is motivated towards the end, in this case, the completion of the DMAC project.
My vision at the beginning was very unclear, to be honest. It wasn't until about a week into DMAC that I finally figured out what it is I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it. And then when I finally discovered that what I wanted to do was present possibilities to my colleagues. These are possibilities. These are ways for us to engage our students on multiple levels. When I figured that out, I knew that what I wanted to do was use my existing webpage and create 3 different videos with 3 different kinds of people who had 3 different kinds of experiences with multimodal composing, and to show the different dimensions. The teaching dimension, the learning dimension, and the theoretical dimension or the conceptual dimension. And that was really exciting. Once I figured out what exact message I wanted to communicate and to whom I wanted to communicate it, the project came together.
Do we even still have that? We have so much going on here today.
I don't actually. Well, it could be one of these, but I think you might have X'd out of your FTP site. Yeah. So you're gonna have to get back to that FTP where you were, where we were
this
before.
is it right here.
No, that's your live site. We want the FTP thing where we were dragging the files.
Oh man, my head's about to bust just sitting here thinking about it.
Well, if this works, then it will just be doing the same thing.
So we're trying to get back to the
FTP,
which was...
It was FTP://
if you remember it,
mail.kent.edu, I believe.
Here, you know where it should be? It should be in my drag down, right? No, it shouldn't.
Apparently not.
Okay. Actually, I can find the...
But you had it written here somewhere. Or it was in this documentation.
Oh my god, my head's about to explode.
The middle of DMAC starts almost instantly and continues until the promised end. It is in this middle that participants engage in making their projects. This time of making is when participants perform the physical and symbolic actions that comprise the narrative of learning.
Gap, because as a field we were studying the process of making things in that cognitive era. That's when we were the most engaged in that, and when the field decided that it was done with the cognitive stuff, it just kind of stopped studying those processes of the making of things. And I think that we're in a moment now where that we're asking students to do a lot of different things in our work, and we've got this moment where I think we need to revisit that research, that actually the kind of case study or ethnography that actually studied the production processes of our students. And I think that that's something that we need to pick up again as a field, and to start thinking again about what that can tell us about the texts that our students are making.
At DMAC, the narrative of making and learning is enhanced by the scaffolding curriculum and the many helpful instructors who never put their own hands on the keyboard.
Aaron and Deborah and Scott and I and Greg and Patrick are going to be scrambling to do that. But we can't figure out what you need unless they tell us. So that's the message for the day, okay? And I want you to start making notes about what you need for this afternoon and tomorrow. Because once we leave today early, you know, if you don't have what you need, if you don't have your power source, if you don't have whatever, you're not going to be able to get it until Monday. Yeah.
The collaborative nature of DMAC's environment.
Oh, converting something that was video. No, first it was film, and then video, and then DVD, and then it was.
And now it's.
It went to Mac. It's been to MOV and AVI,
And now it's going to be AVI again, but AVI for the interactive. It has to have sound video. It has to have a computer.
So yeah, talk about
and so even if you gave a presentation, we are very proud of ourselves and everything we've learned so far.
We are very proud of ourselves.
See, it's basically what he's saying. Anyway,
So how did you learn how to do that?
this
Yeah.
is the one I really
Necessity.
It was a discussion. We had a discussion the other day about
let's
outliers
be old
and
school.
being,
Start
you
with
know,
multimedia. Well, and the
rows in your own department.
Digital media,
And
new media, new
I got
media
home with
in
my
our
film and it
5
didn't
years
work, and I said,
or whatever.
there's got to be somebody out there that's created something to make this work. And
Digital media?
Patrick had been with me all day,
Well,
and we thought we
that's
had
nice.
it, but we didn't.
Digital media is
So I
absolutely
got online and
technically
tried out
you could say that something's digital, it's already
15
in
or
there.
so programs that were
But
shareware
new
and
media has some
freeware.
other
And then I
elements to it.
decided to
So I think there's
see if there was a download I could pay for.
Media, but
And I
digital
found
media
one
is
for
certainly
$30 that does the
in
conversion
terms of audience. And
really well.
Beth and I,
And so now Shannon
Shannon
Shannon has some files that we're converting.
And the introduction and access to technology.
The first thing that I'm going to do when I leave DMAC is need a bunch of money because I want one of these things of my own. I want a little mini hard drive of my own. I need some of these things. I need my tools to go out into the field.
You'll be able to make a full-length movie out of this one, Deborah. Jeff
For
goes,
really, really boring people.
Jeff goes. Jeff goes to college. A whole series. Yeah.
All right. There's hope for us yet.
No, I see 4 internets here. I'm thinking that we had it up the whole time. Like right there, web tutorials. No, that's just where we are now.
Yeah.
No, that's just where we are now.
Now somehow from here you actually got into the.
Open page, open FTP.
There we go. That's what we want.
Did you catch that? My knowledge? For posterity as well. I think I did.
Sometimes you have to talk to the
Come on,
computers.
baby. We're at the horse races here. Come on. Yeah.
All right. So click on your public HTML here. Now, now go ahead, go down here to your one of those Windows Explorer files, which are in the HTML folder. Keep these two open at the same time. You're going to drag over the new index.html and the new image that you put in there.
So, okay, so this is this?
Yep, and it's going to ask you, do you want to replace? And you're going to say, yes, I do.
Damn right.
Yes, I do.
How do I do?
So you want the same race, just switch them around, or you want different races?
And we're going to wonder why it's so slow.
Yeah. Yes to all?
Sure. Yes or yes to all will work. There's only one. Then make sure you get Takeyoshi over there too. Takeyoshi.gif.
Okay, yeah, I gotta drag her too. Alright, I'm now dragging Pam Takeyoshi.
Where is Pam at this DMAC anyway?
I owe her this one. I'm gonna just put that anywhere or in my...
You want that in the same, right here, yeah. Like it's at the same level.
Right,
it's not in a special folder anymore. Because that's how you built it. Like you.
Right. That would cause more confusion.
DMAC understands learning as a socially motivated, goal-driven experience. The concept of narrative highlights the sense of immersion and pleasure that is so much a part of successful learning. Narrative desire pushes the learner onwards, making time go by quickly.
When we do multimodal projects, time seems to just fly by, like hours and hours upon hours. And when you're writing, the time seems to just move minute by minute, like molasses. And I started thinking, well, when we're doing these projects, we are actually manipulating time itself, because here we are dealing with video clips that take place perhaps yesterday, last week, I mean, however long ago, but it's captured in this technology, and then we're able to put it in a program where we are able to operate by the millisecond almost. And then the iMovie program, for example, which is what I'll talk about because I've worked with that the most this week, you can put it on clock. Like you can hit the little clock icon and it separates it out to where you can then manipulate it just literally by the literal second that in which it's moving, and it's even less time than at the second level. It goes into the millisecond, even the 100th second or the 10th second. And so you can really go in there and say, I want to stop before that one word comes right after a sentence. And you can think about how hard that is when you're writing. And that's why maybe it seems to take longer in writing, even though the actual clock time is the self. The kairos time is different. The opportune moment in which something's taking place is different in technology and working with the multimedia than when you're just dealing with your own brain and the paper and pen. And so that's what I came up with.
I think that's really smart. Tell me about Kairos time again.
Well, in Kairos time, it's a little bit different than clock time, or it feels different than clock time, because it's about a specific moment that might be enhanced somehow or enlightened, somehow highlighted, whereas in everyday clock time, we're always so busy trying to meet schedules, get somewhere by the moment. It's not about the action that's taking place. It's about, am I on time? Where do I need to be next? And so it's hard to stop and be present. But when you're dealing with film, you have to be present, because you can't just jump ahead. You have to do those intermediate stages before you can figure out what's going to go after or what's going to come before. Until, and this goes back to something I said earlier, until you're sophisticated enough to be able to do that revision process at the same time, which I think my first year students writing alphabetic text sometimes have trouble doing that revision process, even with just alphabetic text, which is another reason why the multimedia composition would help them in alphabetic text, to try to figure out this idea of how we think with time, how time differs, how we can manipulate that time, and how you can slow your own mind down and try to retrack and get back to a moment or stop and be present for a little bit longer than the actual clock time allows.
Learning is compelling and effective when it arouses in the learner an intense desire to succeed. Thus, learning at DMAC becomes itself a kind of narrative, the embodied actions by which learners push forward towards the project's end.
You get in a zone, you get focused, you really do get engaged. I was engaged more with the videos, with the images, than for much longer periods of time than I'm ever engaged with just print text, that's for sure.
What do you mean by engaged?
It captured my attention. It made me think. It just held me. It just held me. Whereas I would be more distracted by reading along in text, and all of a sudden I would think of that would just take me somewhere else. Watching the video or the images just held my focused attention a lot longer. Well, I was intensely focused, that's for sure. And you have a mission in mind. You have something you're wanting to say. It's not a tool or process I was just dinking around with. You know, I really had a focus. I really want to make meaning with this. And so I was highly engaged. Would sit right through the lunch break and not really notice it. I would say I'd be done in 5 or 10 minutes and 45 minutes would pass. That's how engaged I was.
And it was because you wanted to make this meeting.
Oh, absolutely. You're just intense. You have a goal and you have something to say and you want to say it well.
Enacting a narrative of desire, learners perform the story of learning. The committed practice to understand better, find out what happens, conquer the unknown, or just figure it out.
Well, I think this works.
So you got that?
I think
Okay,
I got it. Yeah. I'm just taking the pictures from the computer document, not here, from the computer folder, and putting them into the HTML folder.
And then putting them into here.
Right, and then physically dragging them and dropping them, right? Or like inserting images in Dreamweaver like I normally do.
Yeah, either way would work, but they have to come from here. So basically, what you should see
this
then...
is one of those I think I know what I'm doing, but I don't really know.
And then you should see then in the source,
Right.
like whenever you put it in, it's just going to say the name of the picture because they're all at the same level of hierarchy. Because I'm not sure why it wasn't working before, but like it didn't like things the way things had gone into subfolders.
What if like...
I think the first thing for you to do is to get every single picture you're going to use sitting in this folder.
Right.
And then it's true, rather than doing the cut and reinsert, you can just make it match there probably, and that would work. But that's gonna make everything happy for you.
Thank you very much.
Could you just tell me a story of what happened this afternoon?
You asking me or him?
Ask you.
Either. I had actually completed a pretty good working version of my web page, following the Dreamweaver sequence. Everything was working perfect on the Internet Explorer browser preview. When we actually posted our files to my server space at Kent State University, none of the pictures would work. Though all of the bitmaps and mapping still worked, even without pictures, because I knew where you were allowed to click. The solution, I'll let him tell you.
So, without being overly technical, this is actually something that really happens quite often with Dreamweaver, because when you're working on your own computer, a lot of things will work just fine because it's on your computer. But then, when you go to another computer, you'll occasionally find that the links will no longer work anymore. In this case, it was because they were pointing in different directions than we were expecting. So the easy way is we're just putting everything all at the same level. Pretty much a process of trial and error. We got on the site, we tried to figure out what wasn't working and what was working. And so the first thing I sort of noted is I was like, well, all the page links to one another are working, and they're all in the same folder. All the pictures seem to be in this subfolder, and they are not working. And so I tried the easy ways to fix that, and they didn't work. But we pretty much were playing the what's working, let's do everything like that. So I was like, okay, this server seems to like everything on the same folder. So if we put the pictures in the same folder and build them that way, then it'll probably work. So what we did is we tested one, putting in a picture differently in a different structure. It worked. We did a little hurrah. And now Jeff is going to rebuild the site that way. I'm sure, and the interesting thing...
That's a little hurrah.
And here's that's less of a hurrah for him, more of a hurrah for me. But I think the interesting thing about it is that there are many possible ways sort of this tech problem could have been solved, but I think the thing to kind of keep in mind is that it's really just trying different things. You know, that's how we got there. We just tried different things until we found something that worked, and that's how we're going to go about fixing it. Like someone else might have taken a different path, found something else that worked, and that would have fixed it too.
The solution is the hardest solution of all, which is normally it, right?
Well, that
but
can
it's
be
a
the way.
solution, right? Very good. Thank you.
I said it bothers me though because there really isn't a good logical reason for why it wasn't working in the first place.
It's a story of my life. I did everything they told me to do, and look what happened.
But we're fixing it anyway. We're rolling with the flow, which is, you know, how we do it at DMAC.
And I'll do that if you get short with me too.
And a 1 and a 2 and 3.
Call it DMAC, call it CMAC. If you come, you better be quick and ready for the string. I can't whistle, I can't yodel, and I can't be multimodal, cause I lack a DMAC brain. It would be so very groovy to make a mini movie without a lot of pain. I would be so techno-zippy, not some kind of Luddite hippie if I had a DMAC brain.
Now we know